is brought to you by forgetfulness, as in forgetting to think about a thing that the episode could have been brought to you by. Also brought to you by, you know what it's brought to you by today? It's brought to you by not having a single tragedy pop off in the news for a whole morning. That's pretty good. So here's a song. Don't you forget about me. Don't you as I walk on by, as I walk away. And now here they are, your invenerable host, Carlos Kareem Wyndham. What's up, childrens? What's up, childrens? I'm going to say a quick thing before we get too much further into this to our guest. I can hear your messages coming in.
Okay.
No, it's fine. That's fine. It's lovely. Everybody else who's here for the 420 part of it, I'm late. I'm sorry. Get down. Oh. The other thing that I forgot to say to our guest today, which I say to most of the folks who are sat there watching me in silence doing all of this part, with no reference or frame to what you are seeing as opposed to anything else, that they also cannot hear any of those sound effects. So there's that. There's that fun part of it. Shout out to our good folks at Bloom Dispensary. That is Bloom Dispensary here in Portland, Oregon. Today's tasty treat is, what are we smoking? Blueberry muffins. For those of you here for the smoke, enjoy whatever you're doing. And for those of you who are here for the conversation, welcome as well. And whoever you are, I hope that you have yourself a warm bevy or a beverage of some sort. All right, we have so many things coming up and so much good stuff to talk about today. So let's get into what's coming up. Coming up tomorrow, September 1st, what else could it be except for my child's birthday? That's the only thing I care about. I'm lying. I'm going to be here with DJ Carmen Spindiego. Not lying about that it is my child's birthday. It is my child's birthday. I also care about the fact that I'm going to be here with DJ Carmen Spindiego. We are going to be talking about their life as an artist, as an organizer, as a field director, and why, in terms of anything that should ever happen in front of either one of us, unless you have sweet things to say, maybe keep Kamala's name out of your mouth. And then coming up on Labor Day, the day of the labors, I am going to be here with the one and only Risa Reese. Risa Reese is a comedian, is a community organizer here in Portland, Oregon. Risa's been in the comedy game a very long time. And I have been in the comedy game for a very short time. And so between the two of us, what we'll probably talk is a lot of shit. We'll also talk about being black in America, all the other things that we tend to talk about on here. Also, why it is necessary for she to be a community organizer in order for people to have their needs met in this wonderful system of capitalismo. Love it here. And then on Tuesday, September the 7th, just 1 week from tomorrow, we'll be here with DJ Tres Manos. We'll be calling in from overseas, from Spain, I believe, is the current place of residence of DJ Tres Manos. DJ Tres Manos is a house and a club DJ of global notoriety. Is somebody who has been seen regularly on the shores of Florida at all of your goofy kid hopped up pills festivals that your kids go to, and all over Europe, of course, as well. Also, DJ Tres Manos is my friend Bradley from college, so that's mostly how I got access to a famous person. It's not really that anyone gives a shit what I'm saying, but I do know people who you do give a shit what they're saying, and Bradley, DJ Tres Manos, will be one of those. Sorry for the gross appearance of digging in my own ear. For some reason, my earpod doesn't want to fit right now. Before I do bring on our guest, two things. One, I myself am going to go ahead and take one more hit. As you have maybe noticed, I've not been smoking while guests have been on, and mostly it's because I get engrossed in the conversations with them. And so there's not really a need for me. For you, you keep doing what you do. You keep doing what you do. And for those of you who are here to do this with me, this is your second and last opportunity, maybe, of the day. The difference between you and me is between ADD and MS that it mostly only you're going to end up being high. Before we bring on our friend, bring our friend under the tree, want to give a shout out and rest in peace. I have made my little jokey joke about there not being any tragedies that had come to my attention this morning. And the thing about the jokey jokes is that they're all based on the truth. And it was just lovely that nothing horrific happened between Sunday and Monday, because for myself, and for the folks I've been speaking with, I would say that I don't think black people could have handled a single fucking thing else after, on top of Rona, on top of having to be out in the streets to defend our lives, on top of your the release of your ambiguously mentally typical and neurally typical cousins coming out of the hills to start shooting at us in the streets, and what seems like friendly fire that then somehow turns into a story of us shooting you, which is weird because where have our guns been this whole time? If that's true, that story doesn't make sense if we follow that down the path a little bit. That on top of all that, we learned that Chadwick Boseman, may he rise in power, died at the age of 43 of colon cancer. It is continuing to hit me in ways that are deeply surprising. Multiple reasons. Not least of which is that I am a giant blurred. As I discussed with my last guest. Were you here for Janicia Francis for that conversation? She broke it down. That was a good chat. Not least of which is that certainly most of us know Mr. Boseman as Black Panther. That obviously is his most famous role ever. But he was somebody who was on a path as a black film star, as a black star. And there are very few of those, and it's a model that was created by Sidney Poitier and was then passed down to Denzel Washington, who had, along with a group of his contemporaries and peers, supported the same move being taken up by Mr. Boseman, who had done everything he could in his power to do so. And so along with being in everyone's memory forever and ever and ever and being being memored. Shit, if I'm having a stroke right now, remember me. Being remembered for the role that he presented and created, that it is one that will go on forever, that he did spend his career elevating the careers of other black folks, other African Americans who lived through real struggle, who lived through the civil rights movement, James Brown, Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, doing everything that was possible to elevate the names of the shoulders on the giants and the shoulders on whom he stood, of whom he stood. And in that way recognized his own and all of our own collective ancestry, those of us who are in the struggle. So rise in power to him. And, I don't want to be so much in the habit of continuing to say fuck 2020, because here's the thing. We were talking that same big shit about 2019 and 18 and 17 and 16 and 15. And it seems like if we keep asking for it to get worse, that it just keeps finding a way to do it. So shut your fucking pie hole and let's enjoy the rest of the year, the next 4 months. Also, be aware that there are 62 days until the next election. With that, it is my pleasure to invite someone under this philosopher's tree. Why is it the philosopher's tree? Because it belongs to the philosophers? No, that's stupid. If you make philosophers a class, then you think there's special blacks, and that's not useful to anybody. No, because this is where we philosophize about shit. And so now I'm going to philosophize about some shit with my god sister Tammy Ryan, Ibú Toké. Please welcome Tammy under the tree. Welcome.
Hey, girl.
Hey,
bendición. I've never philosophized under any tree, so thank you for having me.
Oh, for sure. Well, it was a habit of mine in college, and since I was gonna be talking shit to space and hoping people watched anyway, figured if I named what was happening, that maybe a thing would manifest. Maybe. How you doing today?
I am doing pretty good. Good today. Yeah.
What does pretty good look like in your world these days? What does pretty good feel like in a COVID run world?
Pretty good looks like only 2 Zoom meetings in one day.
All right.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
That is pretty good. How many hours?
Yes. Between them, about 2.5.
Oh.
Between them, about 2.5 hours. But sometimes I'm in meetings, 5 and 6 meetings, and people are just going on and working 12 hours at a desk. So having just a couple of meetings, about 2.5 hours, it makes it a pretty good day.
All right. Ashe. You get something to eat since last time we saw each other? You get something to drink, something? You settled? You ready?
I'm settled. I have my sparkling water.
Oh, I know you do.
I have a cold bevy.
Nice.
Instead of my warm bevy.
What's your sparkling water of choice right now? What are you doing?
Anything that has bubbles.
Nah, come on, stop it. Are you doing a LaCroix, or is it just like cheapy, or what is it?
I think it's bubbly.
Bubbly?
This time. Yeah, and then there's some LaCroix in there too. Nice. I don't get all fancy with, the higher end sparkling water, as long as you got some bubbles, because then it keeps me away from soda.
Okay. Do you have a flavor of choice in your bubbles, or you just care if it sparkles?
Oh, as long as it just sparkles. But if I had a flavor of choice, it would be purple, red, green, yellow. That would be my flavor of choice.
You telling on yourself. That is soda for sure. What was you, Welch's? Was that your drink? What was it?
I was going to say Fanta, Welch's.
Fanta? Okay.
Yeah.
Yup.
Anything that had a color.
Yeah, I was strawberry Welch's. I like red. I like
Yeah.
strawberry Welch's. That's fake strawberry taste. There was something to it. There was
It was
something to
so
it.
good.
It was tangy.
But you know, you get older and everything, your body starts saying, don't do that to me anymore.
Listen,
So,
listen. I can't. I haven't had a soda. I can't even remember the last time I had a soda. I can't think about. I would be jacked up. I can't.
no.
I can't deal with all that sugar waters. All that
Yeah.
sugar waters. So I had introduced you, and there's so much we could talk about because we've known each other for a very long time. But to begin
Very
with,
long time.
is that we have known each other for that very long time because of our shared practice in Ocha.
Yeah.
And so, what if you were gonna let's say you was gonna give an elevator speech, your little hit when your family member like, baby, what that you do? What is what?
Oh, goodness.
What you say?
Is
What baby? What that you do?
I just say, you know, I practice a spiritual, religious belief that comes from Nigeria by way of Cuba. I pay homage to my ancestors, and I give my heart, my soul, my love to those forces in nature called Orisha. That's probably it, because as soon as, you know, with my family, they're all highly Christian. So
Yeah.
then somebody's bound to say something about Jesus. Well, is that force of nature named Jesus? And then I have to say no. And then we'd start getting into it. So I keep it short. I keep
Yeah.
it short
Yeah.
for the most
Well, have you
part.
let the Lord into your heart though, baby?
Yeah, it's just like the Lord has always been in my heart. The Lord's in my heart right now.
Well, that's all I need to hear. That's all I need to
Yeah.
hear. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. And
No,
you
I
just
know
keep
that
that
one
smile
very
on your
well.
face.
Keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. You don't want to get into this.
Yeah,
You
you
don't want to
don't
get into
start
this.
arguing. I tell people
Right.
one thing: do not argue about Orisha with anybody. Don't argue the point with anybody. Just have you know what your relationship is, and you know what your beliefs are,
Okay.
and you keep it moving there. Why try to convince somebody that who Ochun is or Obatala is? I don't do those types of things. I did that when I was younger. I don't do it anymore.
Okay. And so, for folks who need to know, would want to know more about the Orisha, right? What are we talking about? How can you? What's your simplest breakdown when you're breaking that down to folks?
My simplest breakdown really is going into being, aspects in nature. Aspects in nature: river,
Yeah.
forest, wind, thunder, lightning, and to break it down into, the most elemental side, of it, not getting too deeply into it. And I don't as a priest, I don't consider myself a historian or a scholar. So yeah, I could break it down to something to that level. It's those forces in nature. When I go to the river and I'm seeing Ochun, at that point, that is my relationship with Ochun, at the water, at the fresh water.
Yeah. So do you
Yeah.
talk to people about like the top 7? Do you give people that much information? Or?
I try to follow people's lead in this, because people have their ideas about what this tradition is about, what Luccumií is about,
Ideas like what? What kind of
Orisha.
ideas?
Well, that those ideas of glamour, the glamour of the wind, the glamour of Ochun, and the she's this and she's that and she's gorgeous and she wears yellow and I love honey, so I'm a child of Ochun.
I saw
Those
the
types of
Beyonce video.
things. Yes, that type of thing. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to say that you don't have your experiences with her, but I try to take people's lead on what they know. I ask, if when someone's talking to me about it, I ask, what do you know of Orisha? What are your thoughts? What are your questions? Because, again, people have their own relationships with the Orisha. And you don't have to be a crowned head to be connected. You don't have to be a crowned head to be connected to Ochun and have that feeling. So instead of trying to preach to someone, evangelize to someone about Orisha, I ask, what is your knowledge? What would you like to know? And then we can start a conversation, just like you and I are having a conversation now.
Right.
And I think it's better to have conversation in a conversation as opposed to trying to lecture, someone on who the Orisha are, especially if the person is seeking Orisha. Because you can get a lecture online, you can find a book to read about Orisha, but if you actually want to have a conversation and to really kind of open yourself in that conversation, be vulnerable in that conversation, I would prefer to speak with people on that level of conversation, vulnerability, really kind of saying, they can say what they think Orisha are or their relationship or what they've seen and heard. And I can say, okay, well, here's this or here's that. Questions that I would end up saying, we would need to do divination to get an answer for that. It's not necessarily a dream you would get the answer from, or someone just looking at you and saying, I think this for you about Orisha. It's like, no, that's a divination question. So let's take it. If somebody really wants an answer, you need to take it to Orisha.
Okay.
And have them answer it. Take it to Lagua.
Let's back it. See, you're getting very specific. Okay, let's back it up. Let's back it up. No, because I got questions now. I got so many questions that brings up.
I'm not a scholar. So
no, you're gonna be able to answer these. These, right? And we're just talking, right?
Okay.
So, in terms of, let's say, somebody had a follow-up. Here are the follow-ups that I heard that I would want to ask to you right there. One is what is this or is there a distinction between Ocha and Luccumií? I guess that's the first one. What is that?
Between Ocha and Luccumií?
Or you mean like, or Santaría and Luccumií, because you had mentioned them each distinctly. So what are you saying when you say that?
There are lots of conversations about that. There are lots of conversations about, some people will make a distinction that Santaría is Orisha, but you are focusing on the saints. And people are making that distinction between the Luccumií, where we don't use saints, we don't venerate saints, we don't put them in their names in the place of Orisha. As Luccumií, there's a lot of conversation about that.
Saints, you're talking about Catholic saints. You're talking
Catholic
about
saints.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
okay.
And saying that makes one Santaría and the other Luccumií. But when you really talk to people who are historians and scholars in this conversation, they really break it down to they can be used interchangeably.
Okay.
They can be, because I say Luccumií, but then people will say, but you're a Santera. And I'll say, yeah. I use them as interchangeably. And again, a lot of elders that I know and who are also historians say that there really isn't a difference, and that individuals who are in Cuba who have saints and they have Ocha made, meaning they're crowned to a particular Orisha, they know the difference. Okay. They know the difference. They're not saying that this particular saint is Shango. They're not saying Santa Barbara is Shango. They're not saying that. So that's why, I'm just saying that there's a huge conversation that goes into that, where it's like, we're Luccumií and we don't have anything to do with saints, so that makes it different from what you're doing. And it's just like, for what I'm hearing, it's not any different. I was Catholic. I was baptized Catholic and took my first communion and the Eucharist as an adult, converting to Catholicism.
Okay.
And so, but in this practice of Orisha, I don't have any Catholic saints around. I don't, but I am Catholic. And again, that just because you're Catholic doesn't mean that you connect the saints to the Orisha.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean you do, but if you do, it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong either.
Yeah.
So it's a deeper conversation. And I know some people feel like, you know, that is what you do over here, and we're going to do this, and it means maybe it's more black or something. I don't know, but I know that
like some purity tests in terms of like if you do or don't practice one way or the other kind of thing.
Can you repeat that?
Like some kind of a purity test.
I maybe, I don't know.
Do you think?
I don't know. I think a lot. Also, there is just wanting to get away from Christianity. Just want to get away from it. You know, I mean, it's like we all. I'm not gonna say we all grew up Christian, you know, but a lot of us grew up Christian. And when you find what you connect with, and if you feel like you're connecting with Orisha, and you don't want to. Some people don't want the connection with a Catholic saint. They don't want to do that, or they don't want to feel that, you know, puritanical, you know, Christianity coming into their practice with the Orisha. So maybe sometimes they push that aside too. There's so many reasons why, you know, some would say, I don't want anything to do with that, and I want to just, you know, see Orisha for Orisha.
Right.
I'm just saying I don't have a judgment on it. I don't have a judge because I'm Catholic myself. You know, I haven't gone to Mass, but I do say to my husband sometimes, let's go to Mass. But we don't seem to get up and go to Mass. No, well.
It doesn't seem to quite happen.
It doesn't seem to quite happen. But, you know, when I converted to Catholicism, I was into it.
So when was that? When was that?
Okay. I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
Okay.
When I converted to Catholicism.
Okay, so now, and the reason that I'm asking that is recently I was under the tree talking with somebody else, Perla Alvarez Lucio, who whose name I will never ever forget because I did, and we've known each other a decade. So, and two. That she talked about the work that she does in terms of organizing right now, the direction of her life, at really being driven by Catholicism, right? When she was young, she thought that what she was going to be was a nun, right? And for her, it wasn't that she was excited about the idea of necessarily being married to God or this, that, or the third, but about like, okay, what is the most service that I can do for people? This seems like the place I can do it. But knowing you as a spiritualist, that makes me wonder, so what brought you to Catholicism? Was that just part of a spiritual journey that you had been on your whole life, or was there a moment, or was there a thing? What happened there?
My whole family is Southern Baptist. My great grandfather started a church in
what kind of church?
Louisiana.
Like storefront church, building church. What kind of church?
I mean, at that point, these churches were out in the woods, where there's no lights, you know, and you spend all day, you know, in church. And the church. So
I've heard that framed as Negro spirituality before.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. That is my family. And you know what? I love that too. I love that, especially when you're with your family and you're praying and we're singing, and then all of a sudden you start feeling that egun coming because you're singing some spirituals. But my mother.
Egun is what now? What is egun?
Our ancestors,
Okay.
our blood relatives.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, my mother, she was just not very religious. Everybody else in the family, they were, my mother wasn't. So she just raised us to decide what we wanted. Like so many people, their families will give their children the space to decide what you want to do. But as a kid, I just loved spirituality. I can't really describe it. I just loved it. And when my grandmother would come out, and she just passed away, Rosa Washington Florence Ibaye, beautiful woman. And I just loved when she came out, because she would make us go to church, because we never went to church. But she would find a church somewhere in the city, and she would make us go to church. And I would sit and I would read the Bible with her, and I just thought she was just amazing and just wonderful. And she was. And my father, he was on the other side of the spectrum. He would say Christianity is a slave religion. And, and I would just be I would be upset about that, because I felt like he was knocking my grandmother. So for years and years, I just really wanted something. Because
do you think it was that personal for him, or do you think it was both and, or was it that he had adopted the historical lens to call it what it was, and that's why it was out?
My whole family came from the South. My father came from the deep, deep South, and it was his beliefs were then and continue to be, he's still with us, shaped by that experience of the Deep South and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
okay.
But I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear it at the time.
Yeah, well, no.
I didn't want to hear that. I wanted
you
to,
talking about Big Mama, stop it.
Like, yeah, it's just like, I wanted Jesus. I wanted something. I wanted it very badly. But I never was baptized or anything as a child. And then I went to college in my early 20s here in Oakland at Holy Names University, and I decided to get a religious studies degree. And it's a Catholic school, and I loved, at that point, Catholicism. There was something so beautiful about Catholicism, the rituals. And I think I can look back and say it's the rituals that that were impactful for me. I felt I would go to Mass, and, I would long, to be able to share in the body and blood of Christ, and just the whole ritual aspect side of it. So I went to, RCIA, Rites for Christian Initiation for Adults. And I went through, I think it was like a year. It's catechism. It's adult catechism. And I was baptized and confirmed and took my first communion at St. Dominic's in San Francisco. And for about a few years, I was an altar girl. Even I'm in my early 30s. I'm an altar girl. I go to Mass every Sunday. I put the robe on. I either carry the crucifix, So
explain this to me. Are you breaking rules by being an altar girl? Or is this is just a mythology of the patriarchy that it's only altar boys?
You know what? I showed up that day, and I went to the back room, and they would say, "Okay, who's here for what?" And I was like, "I'm here." And they always led me. I didn't really think much about it, so I did that. And every time I was kneeling and I would ring those bells, and they would, the wafers and the wine would, transform to the body and blood of Christ. I was about to get the Holy Ghost. Loved it so much.
Yeah. First time I tasted one of them wafers, I was like, well, this is awfully dry.
It's dry. It's awfully dry. And it kind of like gets all soft on your tongue and everything. But there's something so beautiful when you say, you're just kind of like, he says, the body and blood of Christ, and puts it in your hand. Because I don't want you putting your fingers in my mouth. That's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. But what happened?
Well, you may have missed half the point for the priests. Then, just to be clear, you may have missed half the point.
Half the point.
It's a deal. It's a deal.
But I wanted to know more. When I was baptized and took my first communion, I had to pick a saint. And here comes those saints. So I chose the Archangel Raphael. And I just felt so holy. I felt so holy, like I was walking on water for years. And one day I wanted to learn more about saints. So I went to the store and bought this book called Way of the Saints. So I started reading it, and I was like, wait a minute. What are you guys talking about here? This ain't Catholicism.
No, it's not. Who wrote Way of the Saints? Remind me.
I would have to look that up. It was years ago. It was like well over 20 years ago.
Okay, that's all right. And we'll find it. We'll find it. We'll look it up. That's all right. I remember reading it too, because I remember reading it in maybe, well over 20 years ago. I think I read it in. Is that Maria Gonzalez Whippler? Is that her?
Whippler sounds like a sound. Now I'm all looking it up now. Whippler sounds familiar.
Okay, I wonder if that's her, because that book in and of itself is, if it's who I'm thinking of, it's got all sorts of controversies that go along with it. They sort of get into what we're gonna be talking about as well, anyway. But is that okay? I had read that exact same book. I think I read it in, I'm going to say 95 or 6.
Yeah.
And at that time, she was maybe the most published author on the subject, at least in the States. And, that comes with all its own kerfuffleries. Okay. All right. So you read that, some odd 20 years ago.
But I was reading it, and it was like, I didn't get it. I was like, this is not what I thought it was. And then all of a sudden, I saw the Archangel Raphael's name in there, and I was like, okay, this has something to do with it. And, but then I started seeing these names like Obatala, Ochun, Yemaya, and these necklaces that had beads on it. But I, just kept reading it, and then decided, and I just thought, okay, well, I don't really know what this is, but it seems interesting. At that time too, I started taking dance classes, and all of a sudden I started hearing those names. It was Brazilian dance. I started hearing Ochun, Yemoja.
Where's this at? Where were you taking these classes?
Mission Cultural Center. Here in San Francisco, with Carlos Aceituno Ibaye from Fogo na Roupa. Yeah, I danced with Fogo na Roupa for a few years. And
that was my boy.
And he would do dances of Orisha, Candomblé on Tuesday nights, and then it was carnival stuff on Saturday. And I was really loving the music, and I mean, I was feeling like I was learning more about these Orisha. It was prior to the internet, so it's not like I can Google everything, so I was learning a little bit more. And I mean, I thought I was just so connected to Yemonja, because, I loved, she was just beautiful to me. She was just absolutely gorgeous to me. Yeah. And then one day in class, a woman that I am completely in love with and is my friend for life, she was dancing with Carlos too, and she had those beats on. So of course I did a dive, for them. Yeah, and that's always
okay. So I'm not gonna out nobody, but I know who you're talking about. But that's who you saw first with the beats.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
She kind of, I don't know if she smacked me or what, but it was basically, don't touch these. And I was just like, but I was just so drawn. I was like, but I have to know more. And like so many of us, that's how we get here. And she told
Yeah.
me who her godparents were, and then, the rest is history. And so it goes all the way from Catholicism to reading a book, and then seeing names and hearing music and feeling this draw to this that I don't know what it is. I don't know why I'm drawn. Why would I be drawn to this? I don't even know what it is. But I really do feel something for it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that very deeply. I kind of paralleled experiences. Mine was also through scholarship. I've talked about this here before, but it was also through scholarship. I was talking then about. I was still very stuck on this idea of proving my humanity, right? Proving that there was that I got to exist, and at that time and in that space, it was wanting to prove the aesthetic and artistic validity of hip hop, and so tracing it and linking it to the at that point 7 to 8 stages of African American musical expression, which would then of course lead back to the ring shouts, which would be, well, where did this come from? Oh, I see, and to Nigeria again, right? Looking at a lot of the transatlantic slave trade, and how that then landed, right, throughout Haiti, DR, PR, Mexico, quite frankly, and was so much longer before right, enslaved Africans ended up being a part of what was the fabric of the shores of the United States, right? There was hundreds of years of that prior, and that was a discovery for me, and it was through that the decision was made. Okay, I'm going to Oakland not only to prove that some bumpkin from Colorado could like hold my own on a microphone or whatever, but also I'm gonna learn how to become a priest, and so I didn't know what that meant. Still not clear all of what it means, right? After 17 years, and it is one of those journeys, I think, for very many of us that ends up being something that we can't not do. Right?
Yeah.
You just find yourself in a position of like, yeah, I have to do this. This is what I need to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for you, that was about 16, going on 17 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. That's priesthood. Yeah, 16 going on 17 years. But being in the tradition now, when I think about it, I can't honestly remember when I got my leques. I want to say it was maybe 98. Okay. Maybe 98. I don't know. Because we've known each other.
No, it has to be before that. It has to be before that because you had your leques when I met you, I think.
Okay. And we've known each other for.
I would have known you since about 96, I'm going to say.
Really?
96, 97. 96, 97, yeah. Because I had met another priest who was a drummer and was working with them, and they inadvertently, it was not a very simpatico kind of relationship, but they inadvertently ended up introducing me to y'all by sending me to get supplies for something. Okay. And so that's how I ended up involved in I think in your life directly anyway.
Yeah, because I my first memory of you was at a misa. I think so. I think that
Yeah.
was my, yeah. And it was so long ago. It was such a long time. And yeah, I think even that, I don't even know if I had a Lucky's at that time because I was in
Oh
a
no.
struggle.
Okay.
I don't think I did because I
Okay.
was in a struggle. I was in a
Okay.
struggle of wanting to move forward, but circumstances in life just make
Mm-hmm.
it always just a little difficult to make that take that step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, priesthood, it's like 16-ish years,
16-ish
and
years. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah. I mean, there's different years, right? Because if I think about the years that I've been a priest, right, 17 years, uh, and prior to that, the involvement with the traditions,
yeah,
like I mean, it's been damn near 25, 30 years I've been around
yeah,
things,
yeah,
so it's a minute now. It's a minute.
yeah.
Did you put on a fan?
No, you know what? I think somebody's getting towed outside my
Is it
window.
good? No, that's fine. Fuck them. Let them get told. That's
I don't
beautiful.
know. I was like,
I
I was
heard the backup. I
hoping.
was like, is that a garbage truck?
Um, I
No, no, no,
couldn't
no. Don't do
close the
no, 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 no,
window.
no,
Yeah,
no.
I was
Don't do nothing.
so
Don't do
hoping
nothing. You're fine. You're
it
fine.
didn't go through.
You're
Okay.
fine. Don't
Um,
even worry about it. Okay? It's like, no. Uh,
um,
so
but
yeah, it's been that long. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, I just think of back just of us, as before, throughout the years of working together prior to making Ocha, being at your Ocha, you being at my Ocha, years, going by and stuff,
Yeah.
and just thinking about. So when you were asking me to be on this, I just started thinking about all of that time that
Yeah.
goes by, and you don't even remember, you don't realize how long somebody's been in your life,
Right.
and closely in my life. You just
Oh
kind
yeah.
of, it's like, oh, that's Carlos, that's my god brother. But then
Yeah.
when I sit back and think about it, it's like, I've known Carlos 20 some odd years, maybe.
Some odd years.
And
That's the only
yeah,
number I could put on it. 20 some odd, especially right after
20,
this year. I'm like, I don't know, because this year was 5 years. So who
20. I
knows?
mean, yeah, I'm sorry, it's so loud out there.
Not.
And I'm going to tell you guys right now, there's like probably a little bit of shenanigans going on the street because the cops were out there and there's a lot of garbage out there. And,
Well.
I think they are like towing cars on the street and all kinds of stuff. So there's some shenanigans happening right now.
Well, I do this from Portland, and more than once we have heard all sorts of shenanigans outside the
Okay.
window.
Okay.
So
Okay.
shenanigans about. You know what I'm saying, y'all? As was said by somebody watching right now, Mr. Andrew Ryan, that East Oakland, baby. You gonna hear it. East Oakland
I
is East
know. That's
Oakland.
what it is.
That is what it is. And if you don't know, maybe stay your ass over on the other side. I don't
I
know. I don't
know.
know. So one of the reasons that I had asked you to join me under the tree is because a viewer of ours, who has also become a patron, Lisa, had asked for this conversation to happen. It's one of the cool things for me in terms of like building a community because folks are really contributing very deeply. The conversation that I just had with Janicia is because Kelly had asked me to make sure that happened as well, right? And of course with the influence that Tracy continues to have in terms of these conversations. And the question that was up for them is one that it felt like you would be the right person to talk to because of recent chats and experiences we've
Mm-hmm.
had around what it is to be in a tradition that is an African-based tradition that is in the United States, practiced, I would say, as frequently by Latinx folks who are not Afro Latinx as by African peoples, African diasporic people, right? So I'll cover the whole range, right? Black folk, straight up. Let's just be clear. And what for you, the experiences of the tensions that may have been heightened in this time of the declaration of war upon black bodies and our articulated resistance, and there being more collaborative resistance than ever before. What does it mean to you to be involved in a tradition that is African based and has so many folks involved and engaged who are non-African? Is that how? Where does that sit with you? Because it seems like that just brings up so many different questions, and so I guess I would just ask you generally first, and then we can scratch that lottery ticket for fun, because it's fun.
Well, I, for one, would never say that put Orisha in a box. Put Orisha in a box and say that, only people of African descent have a relationship with Orisha. Because I just, that wouldn't, I don't know if that could be a statement that would be true, because I can't say what Ochun or Batsla, what their thoughts in someone's destiny. But this has been hard. This has been a very hard time. And, we talked, and I've talked to other individuals, and I have gone into the river. And that's what I've said to many people who tried to get in touch with me. The COVID thing was one thing, but George Floyd was just something that just like something broke inside me. And so I went to the bottom of the river. I went to Ochun and sat. And I'm still kind of there a little bit. I come out a little bit, but
you're talking about emotionally feeling in that deep place.
Yes.
Okay.
And I needed to go where it was safe.
Okay.
And I knew that it's always safe with Ochun. It's always safe with her. But at the deepest reaches of the river, it's always safe with her. And she'll keep me safe, because I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel safe as a Black woman to leave my house, just physically, to go to work. And I didn't feel safe as a Black woman in this tradition. There was a lot of heated conversations, lots of heated conversations on social media.
Okay, so what is the context of that? What is the context of a conversation that, as a Black woman, and not only as a Black woman, I'm gonna follow this too, as a dark-skinned Black woman, in these here traditions.
Yes.
Okay. What is it that can be said, and by whom, to create a place of disquietude for you in an African tradition, African-based tradition?
Well, you would be surprised. You'd be surprised. I've left a few Facebook groups that were focused on Orisha, and because there were a couple that had some really negative, very unfortunate conversations. One particular one. A woman who was crowned to Ochun, said to us that she loves Ochun in spite of Ochun's color. And we were like, what do you mean in spite of, she said that. And then,
oh shit, Tammy, you didn't tell me that. Hold on, wait a minute.
I told you I was at the bottom of the river.
Oh, girl, no. I had known about some other shit entirely. You did not tell me that. She said what?
She said that she loves Ochun in spite of her color. But that's not the worst of it. She
Okay,
then
hold on.
said to myself,
Wait. Okay, all right. Okay. Go ahead.
she then said to me and one of
Mm-hmm.
our elders and other individual women of African descent on this thread that we were all just jealous of her because she had good hair. And I said, I can't do this. I cannot be in this group where people
What?
think this and tell us that. Um,
In what
that
context
in what context of the good hair thing?
would it come up? What?
No, no. And felt very comfortable to speak to us this way and to tell us that we are pulling that when people say that race card, and a few other groups, people actually mention race cards to us too.
Motherfucker,
And
who dealt the deck? Who dealt the deck? This ain't my set.
yeah. So I mean, things like that were happening, and
Wow. Okay.
I just couldn't.
I'm looking for my hort. That hurt me in my hort. I don't know what to do right now.
I just couldn't. I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it anymore. It's that you live your life just trying to survive in this country as a person of African descent, and so many things happen, and we shove a lot in a closet, and we put it in the darkest reaches of the closet, and we shut that door. So then we can just keep going. We can keep walking, but everything that's been happening, watching George Floyd plead for his life, watching him call for his mother, that door flew open. That door in my mind flew open, and it was, I thought, the only safe place for me to be is with Ochun. Because I felt that everything was dangerous, even the Orisha community, to the point where, as a Black woman, people are treating me as if I don't belong. And I'm not saying you don't belong, but to be treated as if I didn't belong was just kind of, I just couldn't take it. I just couldn't. There was no part of me that could try to rationalize this, try to have a conversation with you about it. I have no interest in trying to educate you about anything. So,
well, you so much more gentle and nice to me. I tell you what, look it. If I'd have seen and heard the shit firsthand, let me tell you the first thing that would have happened. First of all, and if anybody is interested in such a conversation, get at me. The history of how we understand that the cowries with which you would speak to the Orisha was in the stomachs of Africans and the wombs and in the vaginas of African women. And you dare to suggest that somehow African women in these practices are the visitors? Really? Yeah. Really? I mean, I got my own issues with the traditions, which is why I am so incredibly popular, just around many of the gender issues. But that is, wow. Okay. All right. Huh. So you decided you didn't want to play with those people. That makes sense. Jesus. Has nothing to do with this. That's a lot.
And I'm not going to get into a big fight on social media. I understand the administrators. As an administrator, you're not on a Facebook feed, all day long. And once it was brought to their attention, those individuals were, removed from the group. But it was one of those, you can't put the air back in the balloon.
Yeah, no, that damage done.
The damage is done. And I just chose not to be in those groups.
Now, okay, so in those groups, what does that mean for you? Are you talking about multicultural groups? Are you talking about who the administrators are of a group? What when you say in those groups, what are those groups? And I don't want you to name these groups. I don't want you to name the groups.
Yeah.
But when you say those groups, you mean you're talking specifically?
Yeah, those specific groups that I left, it wouldn't be that maybe after I feel a little bit better and a little healing, if there were, other groups to be in. But those particular ones, I don't want to be a part of even after healing. I just don't want to be a part of those three. Yeah.
3. Wow. Wow. Okay. Ogunda. Yay. 3 groups. That's fun. Yeah. So two of the conversations that I've been made aware of, one was not that one. So that is distressing. But one of the realities that I had heard about was the supporters of Captain No Chill talking about why they thought it was not a good or appropriate idea to stand with Black Lives Matter, and this was prior, I believe, to the police murder in Minneapolis, right? And so that for me, again, is one of these questions of like, okay, well, if Black lives don't matter, what you doing up over here then, boo-boo?
Yeah.
Like, when you even got a letter jacket? I don't understand. Did you go to school here? Because you rocking letters, you got the jacket on, but you acting like you don't even go to school here, or like you don't know.
Yeah,
where the school was founded.
I've stepped away from a lot of things, a lot of community work that I have done in the Ocha community.
And you have done a lot. And you have done a lot of community work. I don't mean to be like tooting horns and shit, but when you say that, and the reason that I want to bring it up specifically around this, okay, is because the Ache and the energy that you, Tammy, bring to the circumstances that you lend your Ache as a dancer, as a choreographer, as a singer, as a priest, is an energy that is unmatched. Do you know what I'm saying? There are very few folk who, when they get on a task, on an event, on a thought, on the decision to manifest a thing into reality, are going to hold on to that and refuse to let go of it until it is manifest, right? There's clearly in you an ethic of, we don't stop because we're tired. We stop when we finished, and we're not finished. So let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Is that resonant for you?
Yeah, that does. I was just saying to my husband, I'd like to finish what I start. And
you do. You bring a fire. Yeah. And you brought a fire to the dance community. You have brought a fire to the dance community of the Bay Area in ways that I don't know that as a whole they recognize. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm putting a pin in it because people need to recognize what it means when it is said that a Black woman has had a fucking enough, and so this is some of the dap you're not getting any more of. Yeah. You're not getting no more of this juice. Yeah. Right? And what kind of a loss that means, because you're somebody with 20 odd years of contribution to multicultural dance collectives, allegedly, I don't know which ones I'm saying, that maybe multiculturally dance collectively have been acting all kind of funny fucking ways. that bring to mind thoughts of, well, are you really going to have the badass shit that you have had in the past present when y'all talk about you having Ocha dance there? When you talk about you having choreography there? When one of the people who had helped create and establish this community has been alienated by your shenanigans? That's where, for me, it's like, I don't understand. I don't think people understand what happens when somebody with the kind of ache that you bring to the table moves to go, as you're saying, into the river for a bit, right? Moves to go, as you're articulating, out of community, and what the cost is to all of us. I think it's gross because it just keeps happening, right? And it's the same thing that these goofball Democrats is trying to do, and it's too much. It's too much. Ugh.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And yeah, I just kind of quietly kind of slipped out of community a little bit because of some of the things that have happened. Because it's basically you're seeing some people for who they are, and I'm just not. It was not something I was expecting, and so I just need a little time. I just need a little time. I know I'm not going to be there forever. And Mafetafun Ochun, she opened her arms and just said, "Come on down."
Yeah.
And she's not forcing me. She's not forcing me out. She's not saying you need to do this and do this and do this. She has done what Ochun always does for me. She has always loved me. She has always nurtured me. She has saved me, I don't know how many times, and this is just another time where Ochun has saved me, because we're all feeling it. We're all feeling this heartbreak, this fear, this anger, the rage, the anxiety. And I'm blessed that through this, I get to go to Ochun. And she will hold every bit of it. And I know not everybody has that. So I'm truly blessed in that.
Good. I'm glad that continues to be true. I mean, and I think the thing is that it gets difficult when I think what is becoming more and more apparent as I'm given the trust and afforded the vulnerability to be able to have these conversations meaningfully with Black and brown women in particular, Black and brown femmes, around what the cost is, right? While there is an enormous cost psychically that continues to be extracted, that when these folks run around talking about Black girl magic, that when folks run around talking about how much they love Black girls, Black women, Black culture, and all of this, right, that what we're forgetting is that the extractive nature of those relationships is one that has always been happening in proximity, right? It's not happening from far, far away, right? It's happening right there on a plantation, in a neighborhood, in a community, in a town, in a nation, right? And for that to be happening where you go to worship, where you go to replenish, where you go to heal, for solace, for safety. Again, the lesson that I gather from being invited to participate in these kinds of talks is that we can't even begin to, I'm going to try to say without yelling at people, measure what we lose, right? Once people remove themselves from the story, once people evacuate themselves, you're not going to understand what you've lost. You just won't. you know, and there's no way to measure it. So I'm out here like a motherfucker trying to warn people. You better pay attention to these sisters. You want some freedom? This shit ain't free, and y'all ain't got the path or the keys. Me either. Me either. So what was your response? What are you doing? What are you doing? How are you building community? What does that look like for you now? Or rebuilding community if you're doing reaching out? What is that beginning to feel like, do you think?
Well, in a COVID world of lots of Zoom and not really being able to be out, just organized a little talk with some of my elders a few weeks ago.
Okay.
A few of us, on Zoom to really talk about just COVID and how are we all managing this in ceremony-wise, because I wanted to know what is happening in the community with my elders, and it was really a great conversation, and it moved into other aspects of things we talked about. Also, we a few of us created a Facebook page for Black priest. To be able to, there are actually two pages. One is Black priest, and that's all traditions. Luccumií, Candomblé, Isheshe, and then we just created one for a Black Luccumií priest. So then we can have those conversations we're all within the same tradition, and so we can have other conversations. What's really great about that group, one, is it formed out of the anger that some of us saw in these other groups. And these aren't even individuals that I really even knew. I just kind of knew them a little bit. And one priest, I just messaged her and said that I was just so deeply hurt by the fact that something happened in the group and I didn't feel like I stood up for her. And we didn't really know each other, but, she got back to me. We started talking. A couple of other Black priests started this conversation. We started this group. And, these priests are throughout the country. So it is also something wonderful for me to connect with other Black women who are in this tradition, and to hear that voice outside of the Bay Area. So I have started building community in that area, and the Bay Area is I love the Bay Area, and the comments that were made were not coming from the Bay Area. They were not coming from the Bay Area, and I'm not saying the Bay Area we don't have our issues. When it just comes to race and colorism, we have that. But in the Bay Area, there's just some very beautiful men and women that I feel that I can trust and have conversations with. And I've had conversations with, some of them. To be able to do that outside of the Bay Area and just randomly meet these different women and just really, hearing their stories. And they've had Ocha. They've had Ocha for years and years. And talking, the one thing that we really want to be said in these groups, for the priest of African descent who grew up in the United States. We didn't grow up in Cuba. We weren't crowned in Cuba, or maybe you were crowned in Cuba, but we're all from someplace in the United States, and hearing that story and knowing that there is a history of Luccumií, of Orisha in the United States, in the Black community, that a lot of people don't know about. There are priests who have been crowned for 30, 40 years in this country, and lots of men and women of African descent. But it's something that's overshadowed. Now I'm starting to see that. I'm starting to connect with people in Atlanta, Texas, South Carolina, New York. and it's beautiful. So again, Mafetafuno Ochun, she's holding me, but she's also saying there's more out there. There's good out there. There's sweet.
Yeah.
They're still sweet. It's not all bitter.
Yeah.
And she's giving me some of the sweet.
Well, good. Good. I'm so grateful for that. I mean, because and I say that for two reasons, right? One, I know that you are as ends up often, coincidence or not, being the path of many priests of Ochun, somebody to whom many people look toward for guidance, and knowing that as folks are looking toward you, you have a community that you can look toward for solace, for comfort, for time out, and that it doesn't necessarily always have to be folks you've known for 20, 30 years who know your business. Yeah. That is I really am glad to see that Ochun continues to take you to the places that that bring you that joy. Do you know?
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to continue to be able to be in community with you. I mean, I've known you, and we've grown closer recently in the last half decade and what have you. But even at that, as somebody who is always clear to tell your truth, you know what I mean? And somebody who also, when there's more information that informs you, is not afraid to let go, to grow, to evolve, and to make a different decision going forward. And I'm glad that that's serving you, and I hope that you know, and that Ochun shows you, that your godchildren show you, what an extraordinary blessing that is, and what an extraordinary and important gift that is, because it's demonstrative for so many people. It matters. Yeah.
Well,
And
thank you.
oh, no. Thank you so much for having this conversation. It matters. I don't know if it matters. It matters to me. It matters to my heart. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think that like you, the opportunity to build a community from a place of necessity is a lot of what this has become. And so, you know, because the community caters a lot of what the conversations are that are being held, I'm just fortunate enough to get to be the one who holds them. As I said, you know, when we were doing the little sound check, I'm gonna just, you know, how the salsa just made that, you know, I didn't know how you really got into, you know, I've known you all this time. I know how you got here. I didn't know. I just knew. I was like, yeah, no, Tammy's there. Okay.
Yeah.
That's part of what that's who's here. That's what we know. And I don't know if we even knew how both of us ended up at that place. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate Tracy helping to organize this. I appreciate, I appreciate community too. You said something, and it really kind of resonated with me. It's like that I've known the community here in the Bay Area for a very long time, and what I appreciate about them is, because they recognize that I need time, and my community, they're giving that to me. Yeah. They're giving me that space, and the space, they're holding a space that's really loving for me, knowing that I need to heal. I need to heal, just like, and we all are healing. Yeah. You know, but giving me the space to be able to do that, holding that with love, is really something that I really appreciate about the Bay Area.
Well, the Bay Area absolutely appreciates you. This I know. I appreciate you very deeply.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for spending some time beneath the philosopher's tree. And even though I said this to you before, I'm going to get in the habit of saying this next part every time, because otherwise people just get confused as shit, because this is where it goes from like a conversation to me looking and saying again. I'm going to thank you. You stay right
Okay.
here. Don't go no
Okay.
place, but nobody
I won't
going to
go
see
no
you.
place.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
All right.
Everybody, please make a little bit of noise. And if you would offer a little bit of applause for Ibú Toké, who has been under the tree today. Oh, that's just your camera. See, I've been fucking up the cameras I did 2 oopsies. You're off the screen. This is just me admitting that my
Okay.
truth is this. I did like 2
Okay.
oopsies. I'm still here. They're still here. I did 2 oopsies. It had nothing to do with you. Just I showed myself one time when I was just doing some engineering and you was talking. So I looked confused at that shit that happened when you're looking at Sports Center and like Max Kellerman sitting there like one of them. And then I just did it again just now. So there's that. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for being here on another episode of Smoke and Mirrors. Oh wow, you playing it back. I know because I heard that was like Inception. That was horrible. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. We like 4 seconds behind whatever's showing to the people. And if I hear it in my ear, I will have a stroke. It's no good. Don't do it. This has been another episode of Smoke and Mirrors. And that means now it's time to do all the credits. And here they go. Smoke and Mirrors. Hey, do you like what you see here? Go ahead and follow us over at IG at Smoke and Mirrors CCB. That's for comedy, culture, and the bullshit. You could also, even if you're not a regular community member, if you saw this and you think, oh, I know what else I'd like to see Carlos talk about, and I know who with, go ahead and write to me. Write to us here at smokeandmirrorsccb@gmail.com. If you're interested in watching the words I say, but you are tired of hearing my voice, one, I don't blame you. Good job for you sticking in there so long. Thank you. Also, you could do that at Twitter. Twitter at El Caballo Negrito. No, that's not right. Twitter at Caballo Negrito. I can read. CABALLNEGRITO. Normally, I do not spell that out for the monolingual, but since I'm the one who fucked it up, that's what you're looking for. This is produced and hosted by myself. This is also produced by Tracy Tatamy. If you would like to support this, the best way to do that would just be to share. Tell your people about it. Put it on your page. Send it to them. Hate tweet it to your racist uncle. If you're on the YouTubes there, you know what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to YouTube, subscribe, and pound a like, and do the things that you do there. That when you do them, do that. In the meantime, if you want to make this a viable thing and continue to help out making it so, you can do so by becoming a patron of Smoke and Mirrors at Patreon Smoke and Mirrors CCB. That's the thing that has been executed already by Ruthie, Erica, Amber, Aaron, Seth, Lisa, Kristen, Renice, Michael, Natalie, Juliet, Tarika, and Tracy. That's almost 20 names. If you want to make the 20, get up in here and become a member while it matters, and I will send you your very own Carlos Kareem Wyndham trading card, which is useful to trade nowhere, I don't think, but it's nice to stick on your refrigerator, so you could have it for that. If you would like to contribute, but you don't want to make that deep of an investment, that's fine too. You can Venmo at Carlos-Wyndham. You can Cash App at $CK Wyndham. You can PayPal /me.CK Wyndham. Hey, I love you. And would you do me a favor? Would you take care of yourself? Would you take care of each other? Would you stay inside if you're not going to be, wise enough to stay inside, and you go outside, wear a mask, and then get a COVID test. Do that too. I'll be back here tomorrow talking to somebody. I believe it's Carmen Spindiego. That's right. I'll be here talking to Carmen Spindiego tomorrow at 4:20. That's it. Love you. Bye.